Swear to God.
Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Happy Friday. I am Pasta Jardula, and
I don't play team sports.
this is not team sports.
I don't do tricks.
There you go.
Which Steve line is it anyway?
You got to get the right nomenclature available, fam. Johnny Sue is spinning on the ones and twos, fam.
It is so... It takes a lot to deal with pasta. Day in, day out. I just wanted to say that.
There's some good with the bad. There's actually a lot more good than the bad, if you think about it. And I think that way with all of you guys, with both of you guys. A lot more good than the bad. And there's bad, but there's some good.
Yeah.
You got to wait, fam. It's priorities.
Fam.
Priorities.
Yeah, you tried to match me today, and that really bothers me.
Fam, I put on the red shirt first. I was out first. Everybody saw me, and then you tried to copy.
No.
By the way, Trey Wright jumped in the conversation for the Convo Couch right away. Sending love in cash to the Convo fam. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Trey. And then also Anna Maris. Love for the fam. Toast. We have some amazing people that join us on a regular basis.
I know.
Trey, thank you so much. Anna.
It's crazy.
Thank you so much. We love you guys.
We do.
You know, they give us the ability to get out there on the streets and do what we do.
They do. Yeah. They do. Yeah, they give us the ability to go cover elections all over the world.
Yeah. If you haven't seen, by the way, on the Rokfin is To Hell and Back, episode 4.
Oh, my God, that was so good last night.
Did you like it, fam?
I loved it.
Yes.
It was very, I didn't even know all that stuff about you, to be honest. And then I didn't. It was news to me. And it was just one thing that stuck out to me was how people have this conception about people who abuse drugs that they're just like low lives and they're just unempathetic, and you know, the disease makes people selfish, but the people themselves aren't necessarily selfish. And there's been this whole thing, right? Like, you know, doctors are often the ones that start you on that because they're trying to help you. And most of the time they're told this is what they do. Psychiatrists, doctors are told to trust in medicine and science and big pharma. And a lot of the times it just doesn't work out that well. And we just have a system where we take people who need help, and instead of helping them, we give them criminal records. And then that's just, to me, that's a huge part of the issue.
Feeds into the prison industrial complex, the whole thing. It's all connected. And just wanted to show that yesterday. Shadow Band Refugee says, Pasta, I'm usually facetious and clowning around. Or is that facetious?
Facetious.
It's facetious, right? I said it right. Sorry, Shadow Band. I'm usually facetious and clowning around, but I wish to sincerely thank you for the stories aired on To Hell and Back. Their stories are my stories, and my story is theirs. Addiction is not criminal. It's medical and spiritual. Thank you. Now back to clowning. Vladdy McPutin Daddy and Comrade Z gonna be guests of honor at me and Fee's wedding.
Of course.
In Peru-utopia.
You know, Putin will always be, you know, my lover. As long as you accept that. You know, we have a free and open relationship, non-monogamous.
I think there's a couple people fighting to be your internet boyfriend.
No, Shadow Band is number one.
Shadow Band is number one. Well, somebody said the other day on the YouTube in the thread, hands off, Shadow Band refugee. Fee is mine. You can have an
online duel.
And then was an LOL. Yeah, you should have an online duel. We'll host a debate, and the winner will get to be Fee's online.
The winner will get pasta from Pasta.
I got my own peeps who want to compete over me, fam. That girl is usually hanging out on YouTube right now. That girl, that girl is my internet girl until somebody wants to take her on. Remember, there was somebody else that was saying, Fee, why you say that about Pasta? Pasta's blah blah blah.
Oh yeah. You have your
and somebody was even asking her, do you guys even like each other? Like, we love each other. This is our relationship. This is our dynamic. We bust each other's balls. We break each other's chops. That's what we do, you know, and we love each other.
What you see on camera is only like
a snippet.
It's me being very nice to Pasta.
At least she's a minute.
Okay, fam.
Help me.
Let's get into it.
She beats me when she drinks.
Oh, stop. What? You're a fucking asshole.
That girl. That girl.
How could I beat? Look, okay. I'm not going to go there.
Fee is ferocious.
But I'm just going to say.
She doesn't. It's not. But I do cook for them like an Italian grandma and say, did you eat? Did you have enough? I do that shit all the time.
Ask Lori Jones. Okay, so.
Wait, one more. Trey Ray. Wait. There's a chance? You're still saying there's a chance. 1 in a million.
With me or pasta?
I think with you, and that comes from...
Well, you tell him good night, so I wasn't sure.
I love Trey. But here, the funny thing is, the movie Dumb and Dumber, it's like, Mary, what do you say about me? 1 in 10,
I know,
1
you
in
made
20,
fun of somebody with
1 in 100, 1 in a million? More like 1 in a million. So you're still saying there's a chance, because that's the whole analogy about men. Even though it's 1 in a million, they still think there's a chance. Now, fam, let's get into this, because there's a 1 in a million chance, or there's a 1 in 10 chance that this whole shit from your boy McJoe Biden over there.
McJoe, please
McJoe,
don't ruin
the G7 summit, whatnot. I think it was they should call it the G7 soiree.
Yeah.
Because it really wasn't a summit. They met for 3 hours, which is nothing compared to what Gorbachev and Reagan and all these other past historic presidents and Russian leaders who met for days. These guys didn't even have lunch together. They didn't even have break bread. They had 3-hour meeting and bullshit. There's some stuff that I think was staged, like this whole little thing going off here. If you want to start off this section, we can jump right into it. I got everything lined up.
Okay. So here's the Daily Caller video, right? This is President Biden snapping at a CNN, one of their friendly McFriend friends, Caitlin Collins, who asks why he's confident Putin will change his behavior, right? Like this is, and they lay them up for him. They make it as easy as possible for Joe Biden. And he said, I'm not confident I'm going to change his behavior. What the hell?
What do you do all the time?
Yeah, please read it.
If you don't understand that, you're in the wrong business. Here, let's just play it.
Yeah.
I am not going to walk away on this.
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident he'll change behavior. What do you do all the time?
So
when did I say I was confident?
You said in the next 6 months you'll be able to determine.
What I said was, let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is that the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything. I'm just stating the fact.
But given his past behavior has not changed, and in that press conference after sitting down with you for several hours, he denied any involvement in cyber attacks. He downplayed human rights abuses. He even refused to say Alexei Navalny's name. So how does that account to a constructive meeting as President Putin?
You don't understand that. You're in the wrong business.
Is the summit with China next?
Who will we need to love? Who will we need to love? Quickly, let's go.
Cam, I think it's staged. I really do. I think it's staged. First of all, the way she frames the question, Vladimir Putin has not changed his behavior. He has an answer for the cyber attacks and the interference on the elections. So the way they're framing the questions, I've heard some people go, well, here's Biden going off on a reporter of a woman who's just trying to do her job. Even Glenn Greenwald kind of said that stuff. And I normally always agree with Glenn, but I disagree with him on this one. And I disagree with anybody who's going to say that's okay, that it's Biden's fault. First of all, I do think it was a setup to make it look like Biden was more awake.
Yeah.
And less in zombie mode than he normally is, that he can actually, he's coherent about what's going on. Even the way Putin kind of responded, too, as well, to his whole meeting with Biden. It's like, well, he was a worthy adversary of sorts. Don't get it construed. The American media and the Russian media kind of framed Biden in the wrong way. So it all seemed kind of like, this is kind of like bullshit, if you know what I mean. That they're trying to show that Zombie Joe is not a zombie, that he's very cognitive of what's going on and he can answer questions, and he's got some fire in his body and whatnot. And
also, it also gives him an opportunity to say, to show off the whole American bravado, like, oh no, like I'm not confident. This is just the way it is. This is just, hey, this is what's going on. Like it gives him an ability to show that he's trying to stand up to the media, but it's just so contrived because the media coddles him all the time. And including this question. This question, sure, she's not just she's doing her job, right? Like she's doing her job as a propagandist, because a real journalist would be asking other questions related to like a lot of the legislation going on that's like targeting everybody now as a domestic terrorist. A real journalist would be asking, why aren't we moving along diplomatically with Russia instead of continuing to harp on this new Cold War mentality? Like that's what a real journalist would do. She's doing her job as a propagandist, giving layups and giving Biden the opportunity to do theatrics and perform for the American public. That's really what's going on here. I agree with you 100%.
The jumping off point that Putin got involved in the elections that's like not fact, that's fiction. You know what I'm saying? The jumping
Yeah.
point of the cyber attacks, we have proof that it
Right.
came from Russia. Well, can we see that proof? Because we really have those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The jumping point that he's a killer, and you know what I'm saying, he hasn't changed his behavior. I mean, that the whole jumping off points where she's starting from, where she's framing these bullshit questions from, and the narrative they're trying to spew on the American people.
And they have their names. They know who's allowed to ask Biden a question or not. They're not going to allow us to ask Biden a question. They're not going to allow an independent journalist to ask Biden a question. They're only going to allow certain people. So you know for a fact that the questions that he's asked are actually specified. And we're going to get into that because compare Biden and Putin,
Yeah.
Biden only answered like a set amount of questions, only in a certain range of topics, and that's all you were allowed to be asked. Whereas Putin, he didn't have any notes. He was like asked all kinds of questions, and so you know that this is a setup because they are like he is only tailored to answer whatever questions his publicist or his whatever say he is allowed to answer. And we've seen that time and time again.
He did that here too as well. He goes, let's start with the questions. I have
Right.
a list of people
Right.
I can ask. So I mean, once again, I think he talked to one Russian journalist who does work in America, who's anti-Putin.
Yeah.
So he didn't speak to any of the Russian press, but yet Putin will sit down and go, I'll take all your questions. Let's go. And he'll take them and he'll knock them out of the park. So, yeah.
So here's another incident with this person who posted, Amy Tarkanian. Now I think she's on the right, but she posted this video of the reporter saying, Mr. Biden, Mr. President, can I ask you about 2 domestic issues? And Biden said, I'm not sure I can answer them. So let's just watch this one right here.
And since you're now heading home, can I just ask you briefly about 2 domestic issues?
I'm not sure I can answer them, but
And since you're now heading home.
He's only allowed, guys, to answer a certain amount of questions. Okay? He's not allowed to answer something that's outside his little fucking notepad. That's what we're talking about here. This next one, Johnny.
The brain freeze?
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
I wasn't surprised because I was convinced that. I'll choose my words. Russia's in a very, very difficult spot right now. They are being squeezed by China. They want desperately to remain a major power. You all are writing about, not illegitimately, Biden already gave Putin what he wants, legitimacy, standing on the world stage at the president.
Thank you, guys.
These videos, some of them are really hard to hear, but yeah, it's ridiculous, guys. It's fucking ridiculous. They coddle him. This is like just showing you that they coddle him, that he's only allowed to answer certain questions, and he's not going to answer like a normal fucking other person of the free, like the leader of the free world should be able to answer any question.
Yeah, it's really scary where the mainstream media is at. I don't even know what we should call them the mainstream media anymore because all they do. Their jumping points are just coming from a place of a Cold War type of rhetoric where Putin is evil, Russia needs to go down. They affected the elections, you know what I'm saying? And they have all their people in their places. They can be considered one of the most dangerous element out there right now is the mainstream media from the way they're framing things and the fact that they work hand in hand with all the tech giants that then censor people like us and other people around us so we don't talk the truth and only their narrative gets pushed. That's why there's a full court press right now to shut voices up like ours and there's very many like us and to put their narrative forward. You know what I'm saying? The Madhurst thing, that should blow your mind that they've actually given a strike to a senator who doesn't want to play ball. But
so this is what these liberals and these media conglomerate think tanks do. This is the things they tweet out, right? This is the narrative that they're trying to spin. Here's Justin Hart. He said Vladimir Putin took 24 questions from the press yesterday for 55 minutes, no notes. This is like the truth right here, right? President Biden took 7 pre-prepared questions from the press for 11 minutes. He had a list of people to call on, cue cards in hand. Which country is a former communist dictatorship? Now, he had to throw in the ideology, but just looking at the vast differences between how Putin was able to just take any question and he did it for almost an hour versus Joe Biden for like 11 minutes with 7. I mean, it's a joke. and they're trying to still paint it like Joe Biden is this, is doing a great job. And you're going to see right here how the mainstream media has been trying to paint it. Why?
Fam, a lot of people compare us to Mika and Joe.
Oh, God. That's
morning coffee kind of like thing. Convo Couch, drinking coffee. Morning Joe, positive fee. No? Nah, not at all.
No, not even a little bit.
Well, who do you like better, Mika or Joe?
Neither. No. I actually, I just wanted to show this little part here where they had the favorability ratings among Trump voters, because they're saying that Trump voters, the whole point of me showing this, Johnny, I don't know, it just had it on the screen. If you can just get it on the screen, when they have the favorability ratings, basically they're trying to paint this whole idea that Trump voters agree with Putin more than they agree with Biden.
Wow.
So Trump voters are now Vladimir Putin bots too, because they like Putin better than they like Biden. So that's the next Russia McCarthyite smear. And they had this whole this whole other poll where they showed all the leaders, Xi Jinping, Justin Trudeau, Angela Merkel, and Macron. So,
well, they are right about one thing. Trump voters hate Xi Jinping, so they hate China.
Yeah.
So, but this is really dangerous. Once again, this is painting the narrative of the domestic terrorist,
right?
And what I'm saying, pitting people against each other. Going, look, Trump voters are actually, they like Putin more than they like United States.
That's their next fucking
That's their
thing.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And here it is.
There it is. You guys could see their little polls. And, their polls are whatever. You know what I mean? But it's just like the narrative management, the media manipulation, the narrative control, the propaganda, just showing you guys that every single thing that comes out of mainstream media, out of the vast majority of programming, is actual programming. It's propaganda. It's so you will frame and shape your mind only to believe what these people are telling you, when it's based not even on fact. It's based on their opinion and what they're supposed to do to continue this whole PR.
And by the way, that number where it says Joe Biden favorability 9%, remember that when we go over the election stuff from the theories that we're going to talk about, because it's what we talked about yesterday. It might seem logical, but it's just not true. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, I don't want to jump the gun. You got your boy Matthew Dowd, good friend of the fam, right?
Yeah. So this is again just playing into that, right? He said, in the latest data point to see how far the once grand old party has fallen, Putin has a net 18 more positive rating among Republicans than President Joe Biden does. Republicans have a more favorable opinion of an autocrat than they do of a democratically elected president. And here we are again, both touching on oh my God, Putin is a dictator, autocrat, and also the elections were so fair and he was elected democratically. You are a fucking idiot if you think that your elections are democratic. At this point, I'm sorry, you are. I have studied elections, so it's possible. So it's Johnny. There is no way that these elections are fair at all. They're worse than elections in third world countries. So to say, continue pushing that whole democratically elected president is just complete and total bullshit gaslighting. And it pisses me off that the left does not do enough of a job of opposing that, and instead have become completely complacent and regurgitating this false idea that we have democratic elections when they literally complain about them every 4 years or every 2 years when their favorite politician gets cheated on. And they somehow think that it's only one side doing it, when it's one big aisle. It just doesn't make it really. I just have zero, if anybody does that, I just have zero patience with it, because it's just not based on fact. It's all emotionally reactionary.
It is. But they know how to go after the emotions and get it done, fam. And that's why I can't wait for your article to come out, because this whole thing, there's parallels between Fujimori and Donald Trump. I'm like, first of all, there's no mail-in ballots in fucking Peru. The biggest issue that they had over here was these mail-in ballots and where they're coming from. Yeah. This election was swayed because of mail-in absentee ballots, okay? Whether they're real or not, that is the question, and that's what a lot of people are trying to figure out. But the comparison is fucking dumb, because our elections are wide open for set up to be fraudulent. There's too many avenues, too many ways. There's no chain of custody in a lot of the systematic ways of our elections. So it's just bullshit, and I can't wait for the article to get out.
Yeah.
Digressing really quick to wrap up this section, what this whole thing was about, this G7 thing, was about to make, it was an attempt from the Western media to make the president look awoke and cognitive.
Competent.
Competent is the word. Thank you so much. And that he's not a zombie. Make him look tough and that he can handle stuff. And it was for Putin to buy some time, right? He knows sanctions are coming. Putin's set to go to China and meet with Xi Jinping. They're going to start forming a bond together. China and Russia are actually going to form a bond together, and they're going to move away from the dollar. So what Putin's trying to do is buy some time before he hits in those sanctions. That's why I think his comments after about Biden being, woke, even though he had jet lag and he was good and I didn't want to miss anything. It was kind of like you can see Putin's kind of playing the game too. Let me buy some time. And here comes Biden with the slush fund, right? We're going to have an infrastructure bill. We'll give money for this and money for that. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Don't go get involved with China. Stick with us, with our dollar. It's not going to happen. Russia is moving closer to China, and that's what Putin was all about. He was buying some time so they don't slap the sanctions, because he knows the sanctions are going to come. As soon as they get cozier with China, that's it.
Yeah, the U.S. is just waiting for an excuse.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, they're going to get kicked right in the fucking balls when China and Russia get together. No matter what has happened over the past 100 years, right? China and Russia hated each other. They would never come to the table. We've managed to find a way to push two enemies together because they've looked at us as the worst enemy. Like, okay, we need to come together because these assholes are not going to stop with their imperialism. They're not going to stop with NATO. NATO is so outdated. It was post-World War II in case the Russians are invading, but yet they're pumping money in and putting missiles
NATO's
on the border.
Just the CIA extension at this point. Like, it's manipulated and maneuvered by the CIA. As is their propaganda, obviously.
I think that they both spun this off in positive ways that they wanted to. I think a lot of people are going to see that clip of Biden fighting with the reporter and go, oh, he's got some fire there, and he was really aware, and wow, look at that. Maybe he's not a zombie as he is. And, Putin, like I said, when he broke the whole meeting he had in front of the press, he's buying time. He's trying to delay these sanctions, but like I said, he's set to go to China, meet with Xi Jinping. He's an honored guest, and it's just more about their marriage, and we're going to pay the price for it too as well at the end of the day. So this was, like I said, they didn't even break bread, these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? It was quick 3 hours, put up a show, give an image, and let's get the hell out. But you saw Biden, like 12 minutes, questions. All right, let me read off the list of the people. And then Putin is 55 minutes and going, who, you. Bam.
Yeah, I mean, speaks for itself.
Yeah. It was all for show. The G7, like a G7, like a G7. Let's, sorry, I had to. It's like a G6, right? Stop laughing. Let me read some really quick super chats, and we'll get on. Johnny, you got anything to say about Vladimir McNatty Putin? Johnny has nothing to say about Vlad. He says, keep sending those checks in that vodka.
Yeah. All right. I already got accused of being a Russian bot today. Is that shadow banned?
Yes. I don't know these words he used. Orale, O-R-A-L-E.
Orale.
Orale. You read
Jesus
this one.
Christ,
I'm sorry.
Pasta. Orale Don Captor duel with lobster shields in the kaling fields of Venezuela for fees hand in marriage with Vladdy's McPutin daddy's blessing in Protopia as Fujimori washes the wedding party's feet.
That is just hysterical.
Oh my God.
Where do you come up with this shit?
You need to write a book, Shadow Band.
Where does he come up with this?
In his mind. It's a beautiful mind, fam. Fam, what are you doing?
I'm messing up this whole freaking thing.
Okay, can we go?
I am, but let me get to the thing real quick. I got to get to our channel. All right, here we are. Sorry, guys. 1 second. I'm screwing shit up. All right, so, fam, let's talk about
Okay, so
Peru, because we're talking about Peru and McVladdy Daddy over here. So
yeah, Perutopia is in danger. Shadow banned.
Oh my God.
Like I said, there's a reason why I have been extremely cautious in my reporting of this and not saying that Pedro Castillo fully has won 100% because it is not yet over. For a lot of people who have recognized him, right? Evo Morales has, Lula has. A lot of people have in the global south. A lot of leaders, even his opposition, has recognized, many in his opposition. But with the acta still being counted as of this morning, the JNE has to be the one who says, okay, this is the final thing, and then the OMPE has to name Pedro Castillo the actual winner for it to be official. Pedro Castillo has taken it upon himself to name himself, because at this point, what the hell? I mean, even with all of the things taken into account, he's still likely to win, unless, of course, they do something they have never done before. And I'm going to explain what that is. So here is the OMPE, I believe that's the first one. Yes. So the OMPE is denying that there are claims of fraud. So there's a lot of people tweeting, right? There was this guy named Wilmer Munoz Silva who's an anti-communist, and he was saying there's fraud here, they're lying, they're cheating, blah, blah, blah. And so the OMPE is literally saying no to all of these allegations, saying, as you can see in the image, the minutes of table 081931 were resolved by the Lima Centro 1 special electoral jury. The votes for both parties were tallied. The tests are in this link. So you can click on the link and you can see how they resolved the actual discrepancy that was being called and what happened. And they have the acta with the image that you can look at it. You can look at the votes. You can look at the votes that were null, the votes in blanco, meaning the votes that were for neither.
How is he saying that they're cheating?
Because
by the numbers?
No, they're claiming their claims of rigging involved too many people that weren't favorable to their party, signatures that didn't match, and Keiko Fujimori getting not a single vote in certain areas. Right. That's what their claims. And I'm going to go over like the vast majority of their claims. So this guy is saying that there was rigging in Tampa, USA, who cast 8 votes for Castillo and 72 votes for Fuerza Popular and 1 no vote. And then they said that there were no voters at this table, and they're saying like that the numbers were off to what was said initially. Look at the number, 72 for Keiko in Tampa. Why? Because the majority of Peruvians living in America, just like a lot of the Venezuelans living in America, they are more likely to vote for Keiko. And they have a problem with a lot of that because they think that should be more. Because there were areas in Miami, for instance, where there was not a single vote for Pedro Castillo, and they were saying, oh, that's totally fine. But when it happened in the provincias, in the rural areas, there was not a single vote for Fujimori.
They
were like, yeah, how is that possible? It's like, wait a minute. And I'll show you guys the comparison.
Between the two? All right.
But the OMPE retweeted this too from the Transparencia Peru. It's an organization that looks into alleged election fraud. And they said, Transparencia Peru reiterates that it has not found any indication of fraud in the elections of June 6th, an issue on which the International Electoral Observation Missions and the Ombudsman's Office have coincided. They're not the only ones. The observers that came also didn't find anything at the front of the house. They said they were more concerned with the other, like the bribing for Keiko Fujimori and how the counting is private, but they said no, that they hadn't seen anything else at the front of the
office.
House. Yeah. So the JNE is going to review these tallies, okay? And this was as of earlier today. And I'm going to click on it so you guys can read the translated tweet, Johnny, so they can read that. But it's basically what? Hold on. Let me go back. Yeah. Okay, so this is the JNE, and they were going to review the 12 appeal files or the tallies of they were going to review the 12 tallies, the actas that happened in the second round of elections. So they were going to review that, and it was going to be publicly available via these channels right there.
What's that say up there or here?
What?
It will view 12 appeal files of the minutes observed from second round of elections.
Yeah, it's not a great translation, so I'm trying to say like that they're going to review the actas, the tallies that were in question. So they were going to review that this morning. So that's what's going on that end, right? The JNE has to be the one to call out, right? They have to be the ones to say, oh, hey, so after reviewing these tallies, still Pedro Castillo is this, or if they're going to say, oh, actually we found blah, blah, blah. highly unlikely for anything to happen. And here's the double standard I wanted to show you guys, right?
Yeah.
It says, la doble moral y el racismo del Fujimorismo. The double standards and the racism of the Fujimorismo. So they have, cuando votan en Miami es democracia, right? When they vote in Miami, it's democracy. 0 for Pedro Castillo, all of them for Keiko. Cuando votan en la serranía, in the, like, you know, the mountains, it's fraude, it's fraud. So you can see all of them for Pedro Castillo, none for Keiko. So they're double standards. This is what a lot of they're alleging, is that because she didn't get a single vote in these areas, that they need to go over these areas, that something had to be wrong. And they're saying because they had more people that were on his side. So that's where their claims stem from, mainly. Like that in the signatures. Now, the problem with that is, by all accounts, even with all of that, Castillo won. And I'm gonna this woman's a Peruvian media person, and she's not partial to Castillo.
I wanted to just make one comment about that, because I know you're going to be writing an article, and I can't wait for it to come out and stuff like that. But it is not like the same type of election we have here in the United States. It's very, very different, the way these votes. This is very logical that in Miami, people living under American passports and whatnot living here would vote for Fujimori, and yet in the mountains or the regions where there's poor indigenous people, they'll all vote for Castillo. The thing that really sucks is that they own a lot of the mainstream media to kind of bait that narrative, and this is one of the only shows, what Fee just put up there and showed you, this is one of the only shows that will show you that in elections, how it makes sense, but yet they're trying to twist it one way. Because if that did happen in America, because I even made a comment, in Georgia, 850 military votes all went for Joe Biden in one batch. I said that just is impossible. That is impossible here, but in a place like Peru, this is very logical. And you have to distinguish between the two.
You have to distinguish between the two. Also, the people that are getting screwed by privatization and who got screwed by Alberto Fujimori's dictatorship were all like rural people. They're also getting their land taken away right now as we speak. So they despise her. Like when I say despise, I mean despise her and her entire family. They want nothing to do with her. Whereas the people in Lima and a lot of the people that are expats left Peru because of a lot of the fears that came from the Shining Path and the association with communism and that. So they despise any sort of affiliation with any remnant of socialism or communism. And they equate that to Venezuela. And they have been propagandized by American Western media the same way that the people in Lima have. The people who live in the rural areas do not. They know about their government, but they don't follow the propaganda. And Jonny can tell you the same thing. Like when you speak to these people like who are family members, like they don't necessarily love Keiko, but they are so scared of communism. So you will see, especially in Miami, where you have, a lot of people that have been here for a while and are kind of like lost touch with everything that's happening in Peru. You're going to have them vote more conservative, the same way you have Cubans vote conservative, the same way you have Venezuelans vote conservative. It's the same thing. That's why it's different. You cannot apply your limited myopic worldview of elections in America to every other country without taking in the historical context and also the culture and why people feel the way they do. It's not something you do. But the fucking progressive reactionary take is to say, oh, this is just like Trump. Oh my God, I want to punch people when they say that. Now,
myopic at best.
I'm gonna this woman speaks slow, so Jonny, this is important what she's saying. She's breaking down all the reasons why Pedro Castillo has effectively won. She's not partial to Castillo, but she's even saying he's won. So
you want me to translate, or you got it?
Fam,
got it.
1 minute 47 is when she starts, and I'll tell you when to stop.
Emitidos en el proceso electoral del 6 de junio. Contabilidad de todos los votos emitidos en el proceso electoral del 6 de junio. 100%. Es decir, ganó Castillo por más de...
So 100% of the votes have been tallied and counted. 100%, 100%. So it's effectively Pedro Castillo has won.
40,000 votos, una diferencia parecida a la que tuvo Pedro Pablo Kuczynski respecto también a Keiko Fujimori.
A very similar difference, about 40,000 votes that Keiko had last time she ran against Pablo Kuczynski, which was the previous winner of the Peruvian elections 5 years ago. Those were, of course, Peru has 5-year terms. Mm-hmm.
Inmediatamente se alzaron voces diciendo, un momentito, alto la acción, ¿cómo que Castillo presidente? No. Falta la resolución de las actas impugnadas en el Jurado Nacional de Elecciones.
So immediately when people were saying that Pedro Castillo won, they said, wait a minute. Pedro Castillo, what do you mean he won? You need to go over the actas that were appealed in this whole thing by Keiko Fujimori.
Y es verdad, el candidato lo proclama el Jurado Nacional de Elecciones. No se proclama uno mismo.
And it's true.
Pero
the winner is announced by the Jurado Nacional de Elecciones, which is the JNE. They don't proclaim themselves the winner.
Aún con la resolución de esas actas, y esto hay que explicarlo de nuevo con calma.
But even with the resolution
and
the results of those tallies, and we have to explain this very slowly.
Actas, incluyendo las que entrarían hasta las 12 de la noche según
including the ones that would come in past midnight according to Fuerza Popular is what she's going to say.
Fuerza Popular, incluyendo esas. Es imposible.
It's impossible
que Keiko Fujimori sea presidente.
That Keiko Fujimori will be president. She's saying that even with those actas that still have to be reviewed by the JNE, it's impossible for Keiko to be president.
Lo hemos explicado varias veces.
We have gone over this so many times.
Para que se declare la nulidad del íntegro de una mesa donde han votado más de 200, a veces 300.
Nullification from a table where more than thousands of people have voted.
Personas, se requiere una probanza alta.
You need high proof.
Presumir que una mesa es sospechosa.
You can't just assume that a table is suspect.
Porque la mesa del costado votó diferente.
Because the table next to them voted differently. Because that's what they're basing their allegations on.
Se tiene que probar cohecho, fraude, soborno, intimidación.
You need to provide with proof, fraud, bribery, and voter intimidation.
O violencia
or violence
parte de los 3 miembros de mesa, los electores,
by
para
the 3
inclinar su
members
voto en un
of
sentido
the
u otro.
table and the electors.
Los expedientes que se han presentado en ningún caso contienen materia probatoria de intimidación, violencia, fraude.
The proof that has, or the evidence that has been shown, by no means has any proof of intimidation, violence.
Uno de esos hechos se han presentado porque las firmas son ilegibles.
The evidence
se han
presented
presentado
has
porque las
been because the signatures are ineligible.
Firmas no parecen verdaderas.
Because they don't look real.
Se han presentado porque parientes son miembros de mesa o porque tienen el mismo apellido.
Because some people who are family members are operating the same table, or because they simply have the same name, last name.
Esas efectivamente son irregularidades, pero no invalidan.
Those are effectively irregularities, but they don't invalidate.
No invalidan el íntegro de la mesa.
The integrity of the election, the table election.
En algunos casos, seguramente, los jurados electorales especiales y el Jurado Nacional de Elecciones encontrará una que otra acta.
In some cases, the jurados especiales, so like the juries like looking over this election, might find one act that is.
Pero, de verdad, en serio, Castillo ya ganó.
But seriously, she said they might find an act that might have something wrong with it, but really seriously, Castillo has already won. So we can
Yo
stop
sé
it
que
there.
para
And then she goes on to talk about how so many people, for so many people, that's a terrible thing. So many people are afraid that he's going to take the country into an authoritarian way, and that could happen and all this stuff. But he's won. And so it like she's going over all of all of these things that are out in the media, right? Because they're saying, oh, but this and that. And she literally does not have proof. I mean, her allegations are your name and my name are the same name. So that's suspect. Those are her allegations. The signatures have been verified by several other people who came out and said, this is my signature, all of that. So she really doesn't have anything going. She keeps paying these lawyers, these people. She has further weight she has people on her side in these organizations like the OMPE and the JNE. So if anybody wanted to scream fraud, it would be Pedro Castillo's side, because of the conflict of interest that these people have that have been supportive of Keiko. So it gets worse, fam. But I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I just want to say that, you're going to have a lot to kind of lay out there before we get to this next part right here, which is the really scary part about this whole situation when we talk, what Fam's about to talk about. But I understand when people go, well, Pasta, you have no proof when you say that this election in America was rigged. And I will say, well, there's a ton of irregularities and a lot of data that points to a possibility of fraud that we need to look at. And they're going to say, well, why are you saying the same thing over here when this person's saying there's irregularities and you're saying no. But I think we have to understand the nuance between the two different elections. And I just can't wait for your article to come out and talk about
these are paper ballots.
Paper ballots, 1 day of voting, no absentee ballots.
No absentee ballots.
None of that stuff.
No Dropbox.
No proprietary software. No drop boxes. There's a lot more
ID verification.
Yes. So, I mean, like you said, if you would say this election here in Peru was in America, you consider it right-wing.
Make American elections like Peru, and then you're going to have a completely different...
Yeah. What I'm saying is that Trump wouldn't have complained one bit.
I don't know about Trump because I don't want to just lay my, I don't care what he does because I think he's an opportunist too, and I think he's done his own thing.
People are going to compare this situation to what Trump has said. You know what I'm saying?
But I'm not going to say what Trump might have done because I don't know. He still could have done whatever. It just wouldn't hold any validation, and it wouldn't hold the same level because you have people who have worked there for years giving their testimony. Where are the people who have worked there giving their testimony and saying, hey, yeah, I saw some irregularities, I saw this and that, and it's so much easier to trace back when you have these people that are literally they get paid for what they do, right? They work there, they get paid, they don't get paid a lot, but you can trace them back and you can talk to them and they can be like, yeah, this is my signature, let's verify it. That's you can't even do that here. We don't have access to the same software. We don't have access to it's proprietary software. So it's not the same thing. And so that the way these two the elections are done so completely different that comparing them just doesn't hold up because they're done in two completely different ways. And it's just because she's on the right and Trump's on the right, by the way, Biden's also on the right, doesn't mean that it's automatically like that. It doesn't mean that election fraud doesn't exist in other countries. In fact, right here, there could have been claims of election fraud, and there are still claims against Pedro Castillo because she has all the weight and all the power. And Pedro Castillo is not Keiko Fujimori. I mean, Trump isn't Trump is not Keiko Fujimori, and neither is Joe Biden. Is definitely not a Pedro Castillo. Yeah. You know what I mean? The establishment wanted whoever to win, whoever was going to represent whatever narrative they wanted. It doesn't fucking matter in America. It really fucking doesn't. Yeah. In Peru, it could mean a lot. Yeah, who changes, who becomes president. In America, your presidents are fucking puppets, and they're manipulated by the national security apparatus and the military industrial complex. Stop comparing apples and fucking oranges. And it's anyway, so there's a possible orchestration against Castillo that has been reported by Brazilian media, and this is I'm just going to translate this. There was a serious complaint coming from Brazil According to a journalist, Hildegard Angel, an orchestrated fraud is in favor of Keiko Fujimori. The OEA Secretary General Luis Almagro, which the OEA is the OAS, just so you know, yes,
same thing,
would have already written a statement recognizing the triumph of Keiko. Below, we will attach the photo of the journalist's original tweet, and I'm going to go to her tweet directly and write the translation. Okay, so we're going to... Here it is. I'm just going to read it directly from the tweet, Johnny. So let's just go to the tweet, what she said. Hold on. And also Evo Morales warned them. I'll go into that in a second, but I'm just going to go read her tweet. Her name is Hildegard Angel. Okay. And she said... Very serious accusation arrives from Peru, reveals an orchestrated fraud in favor of Keiko Fujimori against Pedro Castillo. The OAS Secretary General, Luis Almagro, had already written a statement acknowledging of Keiko's triumph so that the results indicate her as the winner. And this is like triple translation. A high-ranking military leader who could be the FAA Joint Command would have plotted with Almagro so that after issuing the OAS communications, the country would be immediately militarized with vote control, avoiding any complaints of recounts and therefore quelling the protests in the streets. Then she goes on to talk about, I think there's another one. Let me see. Yeah, let me continue going back to the Facebook post. I think that's most of it. But I wanted to point out a couple things too. On May 4th, with less than 1 month left until the second round of voting, Pedro Cateriano met with Almagro. And I'm not 100% sure who this guy is, but I wanted to point out who Luis Almagro is. But he said he met with the ex-prime minister of Peru, right? His name was Cateriano. And he met with him around May 4th, I believe May 5th. And they were talking about or May 4th, yeah. It's backwards over there.
Oh, so it's
yeah,
May 4th.
So May 4th. Yeah, they do it backwards in there. They were talking about how to maintain democracy in the region. So it's kind of scary because Evo Morales also warned him against trusting the OE and the OAS. You guys can see here in this tweet. I believe it's the next one. Did I put it in the right one? Let me see. I might have put the wrong one. Evo Morales basically told him he needs to be careful with
of the OAS.
Well, and not trust the OAS.
What he experienced there, we know all about it.
Yeah.
Right? You know? So pretty much what you're saying, family.
Right here. It's my experience that Castillo cannot trust in the OAS or Luis Almagro. All the institutions and the international community need to respect the results and the will of the people of Peru. Okay, the will and sovereignty of the people of Peru. And he said that recently, right? And so Pedro Morales is over here fucking warning Pedro Castillo and people like, listen, stay away from the OAS. Do not trust them at all. And it's basically the same. It's just the translation for it. So if you go to Luis Almagro's profile, right, his underscore is Almagro OEA 2015, and you can look at his profile. He retweeted Anthony Blinken, by the way.
Oh God.
He's, and look, his bio is basically just says, my vision, shared wealth and opportunities for everyone and Americans with an OAS that strengthens democracy, development, security, and human rights. Guys, that is literally like not that. Like, it's just such a red flag to me. It does something to my heart. My heart is palpitating that this guy has been meeting with the official of Peru before this whole happened, and they were talking about securing democracy in Peru, and now they're saying that there's like this document that they had already called for the congratulations of Keiko Fujimori. And of course, Evo Morales is warning, you're putting two and two together. You're putting the fact that never in the history of Peru has it taken this long to elect a president. Like he has won. He's got all the verification of the ballots. 40,000 votes. She can't catch up. We just even heard another lady wasn't even partial to him say, "Hey, he's by all accounts he's won."
Yep.
And then you have, of course, the OAS coming in, and we know that the OAS does what they do, right? So what's happening in Brazil is that Brazil is going to have a protest with Peruvians in solidarity. This Saturday in all regions of Peru, there will be demonstrations in defense of democracy and the inauguration of Pedro Castillo. They are the welcome winds of the Andes, connected to the winds of Brazil, out all the fascists in the world. So el sábado 19 de junio, tomorrow at 3 p.m., the Plaza San Martín. Plaza San Martín is like the main plaza in the center of Peru. I was there before. In Lima, and this is where they're gonna have this protest, and the Brazilian media is also aligning with the protest, and it says for the defense of democracy and the country. La patria is like our country. No al golpe de estado. No to the no coup. Basically, is what they're saying. No coup, and it's coordinated by the defense of the vote, the democracia y la patria. So the democracy and the people.
I have questions. So, what is the letter that they caught from the OAS? In other words, because they was trying to say that pretty much if Keiko had a lead of sorts, they were going to come on in and deploy the military and whatnot. So was this somebody got a leaked information and kind of put this out to kind of foil their plans? Is that what we're seeing in this situation?
Yeah, she tweeted this June 16th.
Okay.
And she's saying that she's a journalist, and she's saying a Brazilian journalist, and that they have word that there's a coup there was already a coup orchestrated in favor of Keiko against Pedro Castillo.
Yeah.
Okay, that the OAS Secretary General, the one Luis Almagro, had already met with one of Peru's leaders and had written a statement acknowledging Keiko's triumph. Yes. We don't have the statement. That's what I was looking for, and I'm like, I want the statement. But there's no, I want to find that statement. But
you said the tweet was already written, right? Or something.
Well, there was Almagro had a tweet up that we just went over where he was meeting with the officer. He was the high-ranking military leader, and they were meeting together. But there was like no tweet that says what they were doing. It's just saying like that there was a statement made that said that they were already congratulating Keiko on her victory.
Yeah, and it says right
here before the elections happened.
And then all of a sudden they were going to bring in a high-ranking military leader who would then put the country on lockdown and say they wouldn't accept a vote control vote control, avoiding any complaints or recounts, and therefore quell all the protests in the streets. So they had this plan. The OAS was already licking their chops and getting ready to work in coordination with Keiko to go and shut shit down. So I'm assuming they thought they would have the lead and really shut things down. But, they got bit in the ass.
That's the thing. Yeah, their plan hasn't worked. That doesn't mean it can't. So a lot of things are writing on the JNE, right? Yeah. The because they're the ones that are going to say, okay, these acts are going to be invalidated. These acts are not going to be invalidated. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But even if like those are invalidated, I mean, the vote total would have to surpass 40,000 votes for Keiko to win. So the scary part for me is that this happened, that there was a meeting, that there was talk, that there's supposedly this letter, right? Yeah. That nobody has, but is being reported, that we have a CIA embassy, like a CIA diplomat in Peru. Like she's been in Iran, she's been all over the place. That we have the OAS, of course, always keeping their eye on Peru. That Keiko Fujimori's interests are extremely well tied into U.S. interests of privatization with lithium, fourth industrial revolution, big business, all tied into Keiko. They have convinced a sector of the population in Lima that the rich people are going to leave them, and they're not going to have the rich people are going to leave, so they're not going to give you jobs. They have convinced that sector of the population. And then you have Keiko's people and Keiko alleging fraud among this. If they keep pushing and continuing, it's going to require an outside source, right? It's going to require an outside source to come in and say, oh, hey, by the way, we need to have fair and free elections, Peruvian elections, blah, blah, blah. And because Pedro Castillo isn't just Pedro Castillo. Pedro Castillo is a member of this party called Peru Libre. Peru Libre has people that are to the left of Pedro Castillo, has people that despise America, the Western Empire. And they want the DEA out. They want these American military goons that come in and like exert their little maneuvers into the Peruvian government. They have said this on multiple interviews in Spanish. And if that happens, then the United States interest, the Western interest in these very, very profitable resources would suffer, because Peru wants to keep their wealth in their country. I mean, they do. Like, all the wealth is exported out. So there's a lot riding on this election. When I said that, that's why I wanted to go, because I know that there's a lot riding on this election, and it's also coming back. It's historical context. It's bringing back all of the tensions that happened between the left and the neo-fascist regime under Alberto Fujimori. Again, that whole the reason for that uprising in the rural areas of Peru with Shining Path didn't just happen out of nowhere. It happened because these people were being exploited. They were being abused. And so what happens to people when you don't listen to them, right? A violent revolution, blah, blah, blah. There was an attempt. Yeah. And so that now all of this history is coming back into the present and will be dictating what happens in the future. So there's so much writing on this.
Well, I mean, this is the most scary part. Even if Cory Booker says he stands behind the OAS, we do not. We understand what they're all about. Yeah. They're an NGO fucking imperialist think tank that really is a mechanism for manufacturing consent for regime change by saying that these elections suck and these elections are no good. And they never really give you instances of exactly why it sucks or what's not. They just kind of say, oh, it's just bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It was fraud, it was involved and whatnot. And yet they ignore the shit that happens here at home, and they push this kind of narratives. For me, this has always been a cause for concern if the OAS gets involved.
Right.
And seeing the fact that they were already preparing to get involved means, well, just wait for plan B. Like I said, wait for some type of story to come out, some kind of jockeying from the mainstream media to say, okay, look at what's Pedro Castillo's history. They're going to try to maybe tie him to the Shining Path. And all
they already did that.
Well, they're going to do it in the mainstream
Peruvian
media now.
They kind of did it. They did it in CNN and Espanol, tying this recent attack in the rural area to Shining Path, to Pedro Castillo. They already did it.
Well, but it could Maddow gets a hold of it.
Amp it up and say, oh, and the guy is retweeting freaking Anthony Blinken.
I mean,
are you fucking kidding me?
That tells you everything you need to know about the OAS.
And Evo Morales is like seeing the pieces. He's like, okay,
because he had won his election pretty much, squashed the second round, and the OAS came in, and the next thing you know, there was a coup, and Evo Morales was fleeing the country just to make sure things were safe.
The military aspect too, that's an important, because remember we said that before. Evo Morales failed to get the military on his side, something that Nicolas Maduro was able to do. And the military, having the military on your side in any revolution, and I think I mentioned this with Steve the other day when I was on his show, you need like some of them. You guys, you got to get some of them, because there's going to be people who leave the military who support the country, the people as a whole.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that, what kind of revolution are you going to have? And this is what people need to learn time and time again. This is why it's so instrumental that they pointed out the military, because the military would be the ones that are going to curtail any sort of protest, because trust me, these people are going to protest. Like they were saying from the moment I was there, if there's fraud here and we smell fraud and all of this stuff, and they're going to come in and do this, we swear we're going to be out here until, by any means necessary, we're going to get her out. We're not going to allow her to be president. They're just not. And they're going to come from all the provinces and they're already there. They're already there marching in the streets, demanding that Pedro Castillo be officially named the president. And so you're having this whole situation. This is why I think if they're smart, they won't coup, because they won't do it right now, because people are like so ready to pounce.
Well, we'll see, because There is cause for concern.
Yeah.
When Pedro Castillo is just a teacher, he doesn't have any ties to anybody in the military.
Nothing.
And that's going to be a scary part because Evo Morales was able to get the indigenous people all on his side the way he, brought them out of poverty, got them education, healthcare, all this thing, moved them
They
up
don't
to
want
another class.
him to have that chance. They don't want
Exactly.
Castillo to have that chance.
But that's
Yeah.
that's the cause for concern. But Morales wasn't close with the military, and therefore he had to flee the country. But now they're going back and they're trying to try some of those people who were part of that coup, and it's kind of interesting to see the way America's acting with that situation and this situation. We have to keep our eyes and ears open because, well, like we said, there's a lot of lithium there. There's a lot of minerals there. The United States wants them. The West wants them for the fourth industrial revolution.
I do
so
like
they're not going to go down quietly, fam.
Yeah, and I do like the alliance I'm seeing between people in Brazil and people in Bolivia with Peru, because if you think about it, all these regions have similar resources. They also, Peru and Brazil share the Amazon as well. I think Colombia gets a little bit of it. And so you have these regions that have, I've been waiting for this moment, work together against the American, because that's pretty much what you have to do. I mean, look at how they're exploiting and privatizing the Amazon. That's affecting every fucking indigenous
Killing the
person
pink dolphins
there. Exactly, the pink dolphins. And I think they see this here. The global South is seeing what the West is doing to them, and they're like, okay, that's it, no more. Yeah,
no more.
So we're seeing it in Colombia as well, how they're doing their strike. I mean, this is happening for a reason. And it's just, to me, I'm like, America, look at what they're doing. Look and learn, because we have more in common with the people of the global South and the working class people there. They're just as upset at the West as we are, because none of us are getting any of this. We're not benefiting from their exploitation. Not even a little bit. If you want to be selfish, not even a little bit are you benefiting.
Yeah. But we got to be careful. There's a lot of American bases in the global South. They can mobilize really quickly, and like I said, they sell a lot of these military leaders that eventually take over these countries. It's really interesting to see what's happening in El Salvador now too, as well, with the new leader. But we got to keep our eyes and our ears open with this, because this is not over yet. They do not want Pedro Castillo to be the president. That is the West. The OAS has already stuck their beak in. And that can be a sign for some serious, serious trouble. In fact, it was the trouble that Evo Morales had to face, why he had to flee the country, is what everything that was propagated from the OAS. And people like Cory Booker, well, I'm taking my information from the OAS. Fucking donkey. Johnny, anything else on this Peru situation? Benny Massimo says, Fee, I saw a glitch in the Matrix. Thought provoking the Matrix, you see the top 1% rewriting history and pushing fake issues that don't hurt their monopoly of wealth and power.
Right. The
memory hole, right? And they throw it down and start something new. Roar Media, thank you so much for the super chat, for Super Ray. Sorry, making sense of a senseless world. Riding on the couch in the storm. Love you, love you too.
Love your poetry.
Benny Massimo, Putin did not kill 3.4 million Vietnamese, 1 million Iraqis. And he pointed out that Ashley Babbitt was shot dead by the police because she went to the Capitol to air her grievances with the government. No, you're right, Benny.
Yep.
Benny, you're 1,000% right. And I want to see right here's another one from Shadowban Refugee. Point of personal privilege. The OAS has not weighed in on this election. We need the OAS audit to overturn the election on the sexist, homophobic Castillo to make Peru safe for the minority women. DSCIA Peruitopia can only exist after Donjing insurrection from the Donjcopter army. What is this guy? Shadowban, you're driving me crazy. Don't be a cuck. Sign up today for the Carnation Lobster Revolution. Shadowban, you're fucking nuts sometimes, man. Love this guy, but he is nuts. I think that's all of them, because it's not hilarious. 75 people watching on the Rokfin, 258 people watching on the YouTubes. Get on over to the Rokfin, ROKFIN, Another Worldview Possible, Salt Lakers, Neon Noir, Cat Terrell, all my loves and fams over on the YouTube. Hook us up. A-Rem
we
is
might
there.
Need a hands off Peru.
Hands off Peru.
March, guys. We might need a hit, like hands off the global fucking South. How about that?
Hands off Peru is going to be something serious. Guys, get on over to the Rokfin if you can, if you got a chance to do so, because we're going to be leaving after this next topic. We're going to be going to the final topic we can't do on YouTube. We got to do it on Rokfin only. And we'll tell you about that in a second. So let's talk about what's going on since we're an elections fam. Let's talk about what's going on in Arizona. Let's talk about what's going on in Fulton County, Georgia. There's a couple new up-to-date things that are going on. As you know, we went to Georgia. We did an interview with the two ladies who left depositions, who also testified in the state Senate hearings. Really important testimonies, and we got like 45 minutes with each one of those people. They had worked for elections for years. One of them actually worked as a tech worker, worked alongside Dominion in Fulton County, and where she had testified that they were printing out test ballots. The only problem is they were printing them in the same paper, and they can eventually be run through the machines.
That didn't happen in Peru.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's a complete. Why would you do that? That would be confusing.
After this segment, after the end of the show, we'll also be putting up an interview with Benny Smith, and we talked about that. And he talked about that specifically. The fact is, when we print ballots, when we destroy ballots, there needs to be a chain of custody the whole way. How many are printed? How many are destroyed? Here they are, and it needs to be made public. We don't do that. There is no chain of custody. It's thrown out the window. We have you just got to trust Dominion. You just got to trust Smartmatic. You just got to trust ES&S kind of mentality. And it's ridiculous. We shouldn't trust them. We should have everything should be transparent. Companies. These are private companies. But let's get going in Georgia, because what happened in Georgia is that everything had been set for Garland Favorito and his group, Voter GA, to have an audit. Now, there might be a chance for dismissal, because now Fulton County, the Secretary of State, they are all trying to get this case dismissed. Here's a little article in the Washington Examiner, which was the only one I can really get this from, because unfortunately in America, only right-wing outlets are covering this situation. But I called Garland Favorito right before he went on the show to talk about it some more. It says the deposition of election workers in Fulton County, Georgia have been postponed in a lawsuit alleging that thousands of fraudulent ballots might have been cast there. The plaintiffs said that they consented to allow the depositions to be rescheduled until after a judge holds a hearing on a motion to dismiss the case, according to a filing submitted to the Fulton County Superior Court on Thursday. This agreement, the petitioner said, made a prior filing by the defense moot after attorneys for Fulton County officials asked the court to grant a protective order to postpone the depositions. The dueling filings come after the Superior Court Judge Brian Amaro granted a motion last month to unseal higher resolutions of the images of the 147,000 absentee ballots from the 2020 election in Fulton County for what one of the plaintiffs, Voter GA co-founder Garland Favorito, said is an opportunity to have them forensically analyzed. But the judge canceled a meeting to discuss the logistic plans for the audit to give him time to consider a rule on motions filed by attorneys for Fulton County to dismiss the case. A hearing is scheduled for June 21st. Among those set to be disposed were Ruby Freeman and her daughter Wanda Moss. They were election workers who worked in the absentee ballot counting room at the State Farm Arena and were singled out by former President Donald Trump and his allies as they made claims of fraud in the contest. Favorito recently told Real Clear Investigations he is fairly certain at least 10,000 absentee ballots, if not double that number, were problematic. We have what is almost surely major absentee ballot fraud in Fulton County involving 10 to 20,000 probable false ballots, he said. President Joe Biden won Georgia by roughly 12,000 votes, a tally affirmed in multiple recounts and certified by the state, prompting judges to turn away legal challenges to the results. The lingering suits audit would not change the outcome of the contest.
So why are they so against it? It's not going to change the outcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just gonna. If there was some sort of fraud, they're gonna see it. And again, absentee ballots don't fucking exist in Peru.
Yeah,
they don't fucking.
They don't
exist.
exist in a lot of countries.
They don't exist in a lot of countries. You saw in that article I did on the Georgia elections bill. They literally don't. Even in COVID in Peru, they didn't exist. Like they don't. If you're a Peruvian living abroad, you don't mail your ballot. You go vote into a specific designated embassy and you vote as a Peruvian. Why? Because if you don't vote, you get a fine if you're still a Peruvian. And it's crazy to me still. I'm going to harp on this, Pasta, as you cover this, because the comparison is invalid when you don't have absentee ballots in Peru. You just don't. For the very reasons that they can be problematic here, especially if you don't have a very transparent and succinct chain of custody.
Yeah, and that's so important. And like I said, most of the complaints that are coming from the people who don't feel this election is valid are coming from absentee ballots. Because where do they come from? There's not a lot of ID on them. Laws were changed illegally. You know, they
COVID,
told you they were just changed illegally in different states, and people aren't addressing that. And if you're a party that said in the courtroom that you have the right to go into the back room full of cigar smoke, pick whoever you want, then you should have to always show your homework. I believe both sides should always have to show their homework.
Of course.
Republicans, Democrats, whatever county it is, I don't care. Audit should be the norm. So this is the order for hearing. You can see all parties are hereby ordered to appear on June 21st, 2021 at 9 a.m. in the courtroom located on the second floor of Henry County Courthouse, 1 Courthouse Square. Blah, blah, blah. Judge Amaro says, let's get in there. That was on the 3rd of June. So on the 21st, they have to get in there and see if they're going to dismiss this case.
Okay.
It's very scary because if they do dismiss this and we do not get the audit, what happens next in Georgia? Well, that is also part of the reason Georgia went out to Arizona, knowing that something can happen, that delegation. Garland Favorito went out there with a bunch of lawmakers, and they are going to probably try to have their own audit and take possession of everything because the state has the rights to. Now that Arizona established that the state has the right to look at these things, the state owns everything, you know what I'm saying? They're the ones with the final say. They can take over possession of all this stuff, do their audit themselves, and move on. So that is just one thing to keep in mind. I am a little nervous that they are going to squash this audit because it appears that they found a lot. They're looking in the right places. All the information that they got is pointed in one direction. They can look at these things. They already have the people's testimonies. So we'll see what's up. Let's go just kind of really gloss over what happened in Arizona really quick. Johnny, if you could put the tweet up. It says, and this was June 15, audit update. Hand count of ballots was completed yesterday with the exception of Braille ballots, meaning there's very minimal ballots they have to check. The paper examination phase continues, and we are examining over 100,000 ballots per day. What does that mean? They got the counts ready. Now they're going to go back and authenticate all the ballots. Also, we don't know because they wouldn't tell us, are they authenticating the names in the poll booklets? Are they going back to check that work and going to knock on those doors to see if those names are legitimate people who made those votes? Because there's a lot of funny areas. And there was a theory that was presented, and now it's being floated out there. Breaky kind of put it up there. There's an article from ABC News 15. It says map shows Arizona Republicans who rejected Donald Trump in November 2020 election. Now, I'm not going to go over this in detail because we have an interview with Benny Smith. And Benny Smith is one of the top guys when it comes to charting and analyzing things. Him, along with a couple of guys, Phil Evans, Dr. Shiva, they're experts at this. This is what they do. Ad nauseum. Benny Smith's words, they make these charts. So we went over this whole article together because a lot of people are floating the idea that it was affluent, rich people in Arizona who rejected Donald Trump. And they rejected him by way of down ballots. In other words, there's two ways you can vote. You can go in there and you can individually vote, or you can just do down ballot voting, meaning vote for all the Republicans. In the case, what they're going is, and all they did right now, these are ex-Clear employees. They don't work for Clear anymore, which Clear is an auditing firm and whatnot. And what they're saying is they looked at the original vote cast records in November, and they're like, well, this is what's going on. There was 69,000 down ballot voting in Republican areas that didn't vote for Donald Trump. In other words, they voted the whole Republican ticket, but they left Donald Trump plain. And these are the Lincoln Project ones. These are the Cindy McCain ones. This is what they're trying to say. This is an old theory, and I said this with Benny, like, why are you bringing up old shit? This is an old theory regurgitated now from some experts, or supposedly who have TDS, I don't know, they don't work for Clear anymore, who try to present this whole kind of scenario that's not the norm. Historically, when an individual voters favor a Republican or a Democrat in a red or a blue area, in other words, if it's a Republican in a red area, then the down ballot of the Republicans usually is higher for that candidate than the actual individual votings. Same thing in a blue area. In a blue area, the individual voting for Joe Biden, the down ballot would be even higher in a blue area. They're trying to say it's flip-flop. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't happen. It's just not the norm. It's not historically what's happened, and that's why it's an area of concern, which they have to now go and look at these ballots. They have to authenticate these ballots because it's just not, it doesn't make sense if you follow elections that in a down ballot area, that Donald Trump wouldn't do equally good, if not better, than he's doing with individual voting. Because some states don't have this. And California doesn't have down ballot voting, right? LA doesn't. You have to go and you have to make your votes. But in states like Michigan, they have it. In states like Arizona, they have it. And it's usually a sign of what's to come. he's doing good in a red area. Individually voting, down ballot should be even better. They're saying it's flip-flop. And that's what this article is about.
Right. And they're saying it's flip-flop because Biden, I mean, essentially Biden is a Republican, right? Yeah. That is true. Biden's a Republican. Then you had the Lincoln Project come in and flip some of these people that were like old school Republicans that didn't like Trump or whatever the hell they thought they were. Then that did happen, right? But to say that it completely entirely flipped, I don't know. You're going to need some sort of like what exactly because the leftist go-to thing is like, well, Trump really screwed up with COVID. And so, people were just changed like like they were, they thought, oh, that Trump screwed COVID. So Biden is better. I mean, you're talking about a historically statistically significant flow, completely the way this went. So in order for that to happen, it just doesn't suffice to say, oh, well, because Trump sucked on COVID, the Democrats weren't really doing it. They were sucking too. No. And I think a lot of people realize that too. So that this is why, we don't have a way to verify this in any way, shape, or form because of the absentee ballots, because of the ballot harvesting, because of the drop boxes.
The lack of transparency,
the
machines, not ability to audit things.
There's just so many things, guys. You can't just go back to the tally list and look up the name and look up the people and we don't do that. Yeah. And it'd be harder to do it now. And
well, I mean, there's something we talked about when it comes to Arizona, and we went over the theories of what could happen, and I encourage you to watch this here with Benny Smith, because I even said this is bringing up old shit. These are old cast vote records. They didn't trust those numbers in the first place. That's why they had the audit. But they're still going back to those old numbers and trying to explain what's going on, and it seems like they're bracing, now that they're done counting these ballots, they're bracing for some information to come out, so they're trying to set a narrative out there that's going to counteract with what we see. It also would explain how a lot of Republicans would kind of sell out the top of the ticket to maintain control, because it says in this article, this explains why Donald Trump lost, but all the Republicans won in the state.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it to me, it's kind of like, whoa, are you kind of exposing yourself? You give up Donald Trump so that therefore you can secure your seat. I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's a theory that I would get by looking at these numbers and saying it just doesn't add up. You know what I'm saying? It didn't happen the first election, but they want to say that it's going to happen the second election against Donald Trump, that he just grew more and more unpopular when he was filling up stadiums in Arizona.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's a whole other thing. Joe Biden was not. Joe Biden was one of the. Joe Biden was asked to drop out during the primary because he was doing so bad. Guys, people forget that. Do you think that people change their minds just like that? No, that 12 million more votes than Barack Obama, my ass. It's just there's enough suspicion, right? Like that lady was saying, you have to have enough beyond reasonable doubt. There has to be. It's just got to be okay, there's too much here. There's too much here. At the very least, look into these elections. But no, they vilified anybody trying to look into these elections. They painted them as right-wingers. They gaslit the fuck out of people, 75 million voters, called them all Nazis. And then when they went to the Capitol to protest, what did they do? They called them all insurrectionists and terrorists. And they're still exploiting stories that aren't even valid about that whole thing. And so now you have Tucker Carlson coming in and admitting, hey, maybe this was an FBI psyop. Duh, we told you this months and months ago that we were there. This is a whole fucking psyop. Whitney Webb told you even before that there was going to be an event that was going to happen. And so,
well, people like Gates and whatnot were pointing to Antifa right away, and then they got that Antifa thing out there. It's like, guys,
but that's part of the plan.
It's just so fucking dumb sometimes and whatnot. It's who we said it was. It was like the state wanted this catastrophe to be even bigger than it was. They're still trying to make legislation on it. I mean, Joe Biden just mentioned it at the G7 that they tried to kill an officer.
Had me killed.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's really, it's awful. But just digressing back to this particular election, it really does say a lot. And I implore you guys, watch the Benny Smith video, because we talk about these things.
Yeah, he'll release it after this show.
We really lay it out there. And there's strike one, strike two, strike three. This is kind of bullshit. And here's the thing. Just think about the mentality. If you hated Donald Trump, wouldn't you vote for Joe Biden? Yes or no, fam?
If you hated Donald Trump, yeah.
Okay, you would.
Or you
so they're saying that they voted for nobody. That there was 69,000 absentee ballots that had all the down ballot ticket and had nothing for Donald Trump at the top. So in other words, they're just saying they left it
depends on how much
blank.
you hated somebody, though.
It's fishy. It's weird.
Yeah,
It's something
it's
that
weird,
has to
but
be-
either way, there's no evidence on either end though at that point because you're just basing it on. I guess you're basing it on statistics from the past.
Exactly.
But
we're talking about normal voting
you
trends.
would need to, you would need to prove that the norm differed this time.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just trying to say this is the reason why. They're just, it's
they
the
don't know. They don't know that either. That's the whole
well,
thing.
they're trying to put that narrative.
Right.
out
They
there.
don't know that either. Just as the same as we can't say 100% that it didn't happen. But
exactly, we can't.
Yeah.
But it's once again, it's not historically. It goes against the norm. But that's what they're trying to sell. Anything else, Johnny? Okay, really quickly, just want to go read some stuff. Summer of 1970. Great job, Convo Couch. Keep up the good fight. Thank you so much, 83 people watching. Guys, this is the time right now that you want to get over to Rokfin because we're going to do the last subject.
We're going to talk about the COVID.
The boop boop, right? We're going to talk about all that stuff over there. We can't say the words. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super rays. I think I got them all. Yep, I got them all. So get on over to the Rokfin, Rokfin. Right now we have 84 people watching. We want to get that number across over to 100, so help us out by doing so. We have 60 likes, a thumbs up, and several thumbs. There's no thumbs down. Only 2 trolls on YouTube today. Guys, get on over to Rokfin. We're going to be leaving and going to Rokfin in 5, 4,
You're
3,
so obnoxious.
2, 1. Goodbye, YouTube.
We love you, YouTube. Everything froze. Well, maybe we shouldn't have announced it.
We got the ball of death. Get on over to Rokfin, Rokfin.
Just let it.
Oh, Benny Massimo left us some love. Thank you, Benny Massimo. It is always appreciated on the couch. 93 coming on over. We're waiting. Jeez.
That's weird. The computer's been acting up like it shouldn't be.
96. Come on now.
Come on in.
Come on in. James Evans got here. Come on.
Like...
Steve Cutler Live got here. Benny, I see you. I see you too, Benny. All right. 101. Look how the people. Y'all could have been over here in the beginning and